suddenly,
And that's what I
a
was
thing
like,
came beep,
oh, we were
beep, beep,
excited.
avalanche warning, avalanche
Yeah, I
warning.
saw
Did you see that?
Sorry, we're about to say.
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order. First order of business, roll call, and we're all here except for Jonathan.
Right.
Jonathan is our alternate at the moment, so. There's a voting member. Start with review of the minutes. Why don't we do the last meeting and then we'll do the work session, I guess. Motion to accept the last meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion, changes?
Yep.
It's- Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Working session minutes.
Can I grab those working session minutes, please? Thank you.
Motion to accept them.
I'll make that motion.
Second. I'll second it. Any discussion on the working session minutes?
Nope.
All good.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. What's next? All right, so I think we're gonna start, Caitlin, with you.
Okay.
You're welcome to sit up at the table if you like, or there.
You're good there.
Whichever you like.
So,
And Ken, I'll let you guys sort of,
Yeah, well, you can see on the housing, the working session, I took the responsibility for contacting banks, and I've had some success and some failure. I don't admit the failure. But I met with Caitlin, whose bank, the Bank of New Hampshire, is not a retail bank. But I'm going to let you, Caitlin, describe the results of the conversation. But I think that this is the kind of attitude that the Jackson Housing Commission is looking for a funding partner. And whether or not it materializes or not, there's much to be learned from listening to her, because her bank has these initiatives going on with respect to housing. You know, every town, every community has workforce housing initiatives and all this stuff going on, but ours isn't really that problem, since ours, we've called ours a family housing problem. And that, most of the time, that takes us into a retail banking environment, but in your case, it takes us into a commercial banking environment. So take it away.
sure. So when Ken first, so when Ken and I first met, we, discussed that unfortunately BNH does not do any retail lending, but we do commercial lending, and I think that this project may fall under that. Right now, based on our conversations, it's just compiling information for me so that I can, present it to the commercial department to see if this is something that we can even do. So as the commercial department, obviously I can't talk about their products and stuff because that's their thing, but I would facilitate all of that as the branch manager in Conway. And with the commercial and the housing being a subcommittee of the town, I think, that's something that we will hopefully be able to work. And my biggest thing was just listening to Ken speak in my office and the passion that he has for making this work was a lot for me. It really made me feel like this was something that he's passionate about, and I want to help. And I may not be able to help in the ways that he originally had expressed, but I think building that partnership is going to be important. And maybe in other ways, we can't give you a mortgage, right? So that's problem one. But I certainly think that there are other resources. And our focus this year at B&H is affordable housing. So.
and that was a question I was gonna ask.
Sure.
If it's, so not a mortgage, but it's a commercial lending
Correct.
department or
Yeah.
bank. So does that mean you would be more, that there'd be more opportunity if we had a development of some sort as opposed to a single mortgage for, someone looking to buy a.
Possibly, yes. And that's really, at this point, why I'm gathering all the information and getting what you're looking for, and that way I can present it to them.
Yeah.
And, it may be a no, it may be a maybe, it may be, I don't know. But that's why I'm.
And to some degree, what we're looking for might craft towards whatever you have to offer.
Sure, of course.
And I also offered up our willingness to meet with the commercial people at any point in time, either here or there or wherever, so.
Did you have a question, Renee?
Yeah, so what we would be talking about then is creating a business that would own this and then rent to people?
Maybe.
And so these people wouldn't get to own these
So,
homes?
Just to step back a little bit, how you and I were talking at the beginning, we're not against or for anything right now. We're
Okay.
all in the creative mode.
Whatever
So-
works.
So
Yeah.
we've talked about, it may be rent to own, it may be the full mortgage, and it may be that it's a rental situation at the beginning, but everything is a possibility right now until we can get further groundwork. Developments are tough in Jackson because we don't have common sewer, water. We're looking at smaller properties, so septic is always an issue, and access to water. So finding a development is a little tough where we are, but if you have commercial owned property, and that's interesting to me to think that Bank of New Hampshire housing is an initiative, yet they don't do retail, so they have to reconcile that, and I'm sure that's where you're heading with that too. So I just wanted to interrupt on that, though. I'm sorry, but I hope that answered your question. Kind of like,
Yeah.
we don't know what it looks like. We're
Right.
exploring everything.
Every option, yeah.
And
And
that's
it may even
not,
be a mix, a combination
Right.
of for sale and for rent.
Yeah, I think either would be great, yeah.
so I'm just here to listen and take some notes and try to find a way to build a partnership.
Great.
Thanks, Caitlin. You guys have any other questions? or-
No, I think that's a good summary of our conversation and where we're headed with this.
Caitlin, I had a question. You mentioned that some of the things that you kind of originally talked about you might not be able to do. Could you just elaborate on what did you specifically ask for and what can you not do?
In reference to like the commercial products that we offer,
Yeah.
that I would facilitate the meeting, but we have a commercial department that handles all of that.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks.
In an ideal world, what I presented to every bank was, we really don't want much, but if you close your eyes and you visualize a plot of land, a couple of 3 or 4 or 5 acres of land, and the reason I'm saying it's that large is we need to benefit and leverage economies of scale if we're going to build 5 houses and sell those houses or let owners buy those houses. We definitely have a profile of the kind of person we'd like to own the house. And it would be a young family with children. And if you think about it, that's, helps the school out, helps the town out, helps the future out. And you face it, Jackson isn't exactly getting any younger. I'm a perfect example of that. But it would be nice to bring in 5 young families who want to make a future here in Jackson and could support the school with attendance and that neck of the woods.
Be in the fire department. and-
Yeah, but I said the same to every bank. I said, look, what are the problems that young families, young couples have in getting their first home or start a home? Down payment, the ability to pay the mortgage, etc. So I didn't ask for much. I want $1.5 million allocated, and I want to be able to build these houses and sell them to families at 0% down and an interest rate, a mortgage rate of maybe 1% to start, and stage it every couple of years till it gets to the water seeks its own level. That's not a lot. But it really isn't. When you think of, you're talking about banks with billions of dollars, that's not a lot of money. And really, if banks really want to do something for the community, they're going to partner with groups like ours, because there's really no financial benefit to them. They get a half a dozen new accounts. That's not a big deal to a bank. But they really are married to the community. And if they're going to do something positive in the community, what better place to start than the town of Jackson? I vouch for it.
For
It's a
sure.
great PR story for sure, especially with an initiative of housing for any organization, any bank. And we have several new banks in the town, in the valley, so it's got to be a little bit competitive where they're wanting to make that mark of housing. So it's a great sales tactic. It's like you said, it's not gonna make them money. It's going to help them achieve their housing commission or their housing goals.
And one other big thing is, there's no risk. Where's the risk? If I have a two-bedroom home in Jackson on a piece of land with sewer and water in the range of 300,000, how long do you think it would take to sell that house?
Right.
I could do it on the phone before this meeting's over. I mean, this is gonna take that long.
I know you can have communities where people have to be 50 and older to move in, but what are the legalities, or are there legalities of having housing where you say that people have to be under a certain age or have children or whatever?
Well, you notice I didn't set an age. I just said young families. And I think those are parameters that we have to research with the legal people here in the town of Jackson. I'm not gonna kid about that.
Yeah.
There is in Jackson Hole, I don't know if it's still active, but there was a housing, it was a nonprofit organization there. And they gave out housing based on a lottery, but your vote, your ticket in the lottery was weighted according to what you did already in the community, how long you'd already been in the community, and then in some fashion your plans, moving forward within the community. So they were really, I don't know that they had any sort of age parameters involved or quote unquote family parameters, but they were certainly looking and filtering according to people that would bring the most into the community.
The town, we used to live in White Plains, New York, and they did a large affordable housing, and it was a big apartment building. And I know that the applicants had to, there were a lot of criteria, like how long they lived there, if they worked for the city, blah, blah, blah. And they allocated the housing based on those criteria. I mean, they had a certain number for people who were old, a certain number for people who were young.
Generally, if those are federally regulated, if they are affordable housing, there are certain rent restrictions and income restrictions that you have to have a certain number of rents at very low, for the very low income, moderately low income, and it scales up.
And it was all owned by the
accordingly.
city and all rentals.
Right. So we're not working on affordable housing at all. So
Okay.
we're not income restricting anyone in any kind of verbiage. However, you have to have some income to be able to live in Jackson, and we're trying to make that affordable. And that's the only place affordable goes into our verbiage, I think.
But that is a good question,
Yeah.
something that we'll have to look into because, really the ultimate goal is to bring youth into town.
I mean, it's only logical if you can restrict the development to 55 and older,
Yeah.
why can't you restrict the development to
To
35 and
30.
younger?
Well,
Yeah.
it's
They're trying to
private,
get older.
it's a private development versus a
Yeah.
public.
I stayed in one of those places out in Jackson Hole, and the people that owned it were both climbing guides, and it was a condo, a whole condo area,
Yeah.
and it was lovely. It was right next to the mountain, and they were lovely. And I couldn't believe how little they were paying for it. Yeah.
But really, again, what we're looking to do is to bring families into town, to bring, we're an aging town. Median age is 55 plus, I think it's close to 58. We're going to have a fire department that, is going to need volunteers from outside of Jackson, already has many volunteers from outside of Jackson, or is going to have to pay for, staff because there won't be local volunteers that can climb a
They could
ladder.
climb a ladder.
Or slide down the pole.
And it really changes the whole sort of makeup of the town. If we lose the school because the school population drops too low, that will really change the nature of town.
What is the threshold for the school? Like, how many kids would need to have in it to stay?
There's no set threshold. When I talked to the principal, this is probably 10 years ago, her feeling was that around 30 kids overall. is when,
The lowest.
is when
Is as low as it
you're
could go.
not providing a better or even as good an education.
But they have a capacity of 58, I believe, is their highest capacity. So, you know, and that even teachers, bringing teachers into town that can
Well, there's only
teach.
4 of them, so.
Right. Yes, we need more teachers. Yeah, but you look at where can they live, where can
Yeah.
they, if they can bring
My
kids in.
sister's a 3rd and 4th grade teacher.
Great. Gotcha. Preach to the choir here.
And she used to be my tenant.
Yeah. But then she was able to
It's a
buy the
small
one house that was
world.
available for sale, and their price raised the last 15 years, so.
Mhm.
So you lost her.
And you know, frankly, it's hard to chart the population at the school because it's a small population anyhow, so any changes, a couple families move in, a couple families move out, it's gonna,
Right.
you know, have a disproportionate impact on it. But if you look at it over time, at least when I last looked, it was clearly trending downward.
I
And
think
again,
didn't Jess Della Valle indicate that we're at about 66% capacity right now? Is that what she said?
Yeah, they are this year.
Yeah.
So they
you
could,
know,
they could bump it up.
but again, it would change it really would change the nature of the town to lose the school. That, to me,
Yes.
that's a turning point right there.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I mean, could we buy the Thompson House Eatery property and turn that into the housing units?
there was a charrette,
Yeah.
A what?
which is where they looked.
Big meeting.
A
Oh,
meeting,
meeting.
a meeting,
Thank you.
a charrette's sort
Yeah.
of a meeting that is intended to come up with a working plan at the end. And they ended up not coming up with a working plan because they decided it really was not feasible for that sort of development. Because it's.
Do Larry and Leslie still on that?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
So, anyhow.
So also what we've done, and we're going to talk about it amongst the committee here, is we've come up with a trifold brochure that we're going to be getting printed that talks about our initiatives, what our focus areas are, gives some statistics, and of course it has the best pictures of the school, the bridge, and the old library, because those are large parts of what make up our small community. We could have put so many more pictures of the current library, and you know, we talk about the school. We decided that was going to be a big focus of our committee to bring young families in because, like Scott said, and we all agree, if we lose the school, that changes our community significantly. It's a large part of our downtown area, and there are definitely the proponents of we don't need the school, and there are the big ones that it's nothing. The town is not Jackson without the school. So we feel like it's really an important part of the downtown area, the community of who Jackson is, and that's what we really want to help. That's why we're focusing on families.
So moving on, Jay. You're next. Jay Feenan. Do you guys all know Jay?
No, but we're
I
neighbors.
do
I
now.
thought he did.
I thought I did.
Jay lives just down the street from me. He purchased the house that's across the street from my parents. And he has another property that might be something we can work with. When I first let you describe the property, Jay. And then
Yeah, so just a little background. So it seems like it was yesterday, but we actually bought that house for 15 years in
Wow.
April. So.
With the house across from his parents?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so.
the McClave's house.
Yeah.
Pardon?
The McClave's.
Okay.
Keith McClave's
Oh, yeah.
former house. So.
It's your husband.
It's my house, but I still call it McClave's house. And as I will continue, so when we bought that house, we realized that for a number of years, we're gonna renovate it to the point that would change our lives to move up here full time. And we finally did that in 2018, moved up here full time. But back then, I realized that we would be the first people to live in it part time. So I had to find someone to take care of the house. So I put out ads and I ended up with her sister, who's now a school teacher. And there was a cycle of people, Margaret was the other person, Margaret Graciano was her roommate. And there was a cycle of people that went through the place and a number of, they end up finding their significant other and moving out and blah, blah, blah. And my wife and I realized that there's a big housing problem for young people in this town back, right in the beginning. So this is 2011, around there. So we started looking in investing in other properties. So I wanted to buy the land up next to David Baker's old place, the field over there. And they weren't gonna sell it until they sold the house and the art studio. So I said, well, tell you what, I'll buy the house and the art studio in one tax year, and I'll buy the land in the next tax year, but you have to sell me both. So, so I did that, and the whole intent was to buy land to do some type of, I like to call it community housing on there. And I'm getting to the point where I don't want to be a landlord forever. So my model is make it so that someone can come in and buy a house and end up being the owner of the house. But at the same time, I looked up all these different things of deed restrictions and all this other stuff. So I've been talking with Scott for years on this.
So how many acres is the land?
It's like 6 acres or
And
so.
is it all buildable?
Yeah, I had an engineering study, and they had like 5 units to go in there, like a plan development, so.
Oh, there you go.
But there's like all this criteria. I mean, it's like I have to do a wetland study. You have to do all this stuff, and I
You can
spent.
do that anyway.
Right, I gotta do that anyways, but the thing is, I have land, but I don't have I'm not a builder. I'm just another guy.
A nice guy.
I think that'd be a
and-
nice place to put.
Yeah,
houses
so.
down next to-
So I have land that I'm willing to offer for any projects that come forward. And I'm so adamant about this, is that I'll say it, I'm willing to donate the land to it. I don't need any money or anything, so.
Whoa.
You're
Yeah.
an amazing guy. Would you like to come sit at the tables? No, it's,
But
yeah.
anyway, so
Wow.
it's been, the young people that come in here stay in this community. Or they try to stay in this community,
Yeah.
but they're being priced out, so.
Yeah.
But out of, those properties, basically 3 rentals, the way my wife and I look at it is we have a bunch of surrogate children and a bunch of surrogate grandchildren, because there's probably like 5 marriages among all those people and
Right.
all sort of stuff. But some of them have to move to like Whitefield to find a house. And, but a lot of them end up with properties. But it takes a number of years, and they have to find the right stuff, and they have to develop their forever job so that they have benefits and so forth, and have a family, and then they can move in. And in general, they can't do that in Jackson now, because it's like tourist city USA, right? So, and it's good, yeah. So anyways, that's why I'm here, and that's why Scott wanted me to come, so.
If I could just interject one thing, and Caitlin, you can chime in on this. That's a big deal with the banks, if we can get the land donated, because that's equivalent to collateral, that's equivalent to down payment. You know the game. So when I mentioned that to her, I looked at her, and her eyes sort of
Yeah, I saw that too.
lit up a little bit, and
So, yeah.
it's a big deal.
It's, and if the other part about this is that this is before the Housing Commission and so forth, is when I looked at this, if I just for instance, I realized that if I went off to, a guy that runs an excavation company, I'm a general contractor and this and that, and we all came up with, it can't be Habitat for Humanity, because it's more than that, right? I realized a number of different things. One is that the price point of not affordable workforce housing is really skewed for this community, because it's all done on averages of income, and you've got different, and it's the county income that matters.
Right.
So when you look at the county income and you look at like the rental price points, being a landlord, there's no way I could rent a house like that, even break even, So a lot of people don't realize that. That's one part of it. The other part of it is the affordable part of it. So the affordable part meaning like, okay, the sale price has to be, I'm making up these numbers because I haven't looked at this since COVID, but say it was 350, right? Well, you couldn't build a house for 350, right? So that's not right either. So you need like-minded community. If you're gonna do something like that with, this consortium of, the excavator, concrete guy, and the builder, and the guy that owns the land, and, an engineering to go through all the permitting and everything. If you put that all together, it's a hard thing to, you need a lot of donated services to make that work, right? So, and then once you get that done, if that consortium of people you put together have the like mind of saying, okay, the goal of this effort is rentals or ownership or whatever, and to drive that you needed deed restrictions of like, okay, for 20 years, if you're an owner of one of these houses, maybe you make it so there's some type of metric off of the average income or whatever. You could sell it with that metric, so you get your player in building equity in this property, but you can't go from this affordable thing to something, you're going to sell it at market price next 5 years from now. If you did that, then you need someone to manage that, because if, I'm just saying this is Jay Feenan's idea, Jay Feenan dies, all that goes away, because who's going to enforce that? Well, we have a housing commission now.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing that the housing commission's been formed, because now there's an opportunity that there is something integrated in the community that actually could provide some type of regulation and I wouldn't recommend you becoming landlords all the time, but of ownership or something like that, they could at least peruse like the turnover of those properties. So.
And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Jay, but I spoke, who was I speaking with? I think it was someone at the New Hampshire Municipal Association.
Yep.
And whereas in the past, deed restrictions might not stand up in court after the author of the restriction was gone, passed away or moved, because the court would say, well, the person that wanted this restriction, whatever value it gave them, is no longer around, so why should the restrictions still be in place? But in particular with some of the housing restrictions that are coming along, the courts have now started upholding those restrictions beyond the point that the author is no longer in the picture. So it sort of helps in terms of, but you also got to one of the difficulties of those restrictions, even if the restriction itself is solid, is if you're living in a house and you're not going to get market value for what you put into the house, any improvements, whether it's sweat equity or financial, it certainly doesn't. It serves as a blockage to that sort of thing. People are not as likely to invest in the property. So
But at the same time, if you buy a house for $350,000 at a very affordable mortgage rate and you start earning a little bit more, you have the ability to build your own equity in savings versus buying down your mortgage or building equity in the house. So if you're constantly paying down a mortgage and you end up selling it for $350,000, you are still going to hopefully be planning and maybe we involve financial planning and or that option for this person. And you mentioned donated services. Absolutely. The Housing Commission's going to have to rely on legal services, architectural, anything, let alone the manual labor part of it. But I think that's going to be our job and our task is to figure that part out.
Getting to cost and size, because obviously size is going to drive the cost significantly. Jackson.
And if you want it to be families, it's got to
Right,
have a few
definitely.
bedrooms. A few bedrooms.
So Jackson happened to have a pretty liberal accessory dwelling unit ordinance. And, if we were to develop a property, with initially, say, 800,000 foot tiny homes, but develop it in terms of septic, et cetera, towards each of those homes having the opportunity to add an accessory dwelling unit, which can be attached or detached. It lets someone essentially double the size of that home and make it from, maybe something that's good for a couple or a couple and a baby to something that's good for, an actual family. And have it be sort of a convertible home in that sense.
Can you preclude outside financial companies who just want to do short-term rentals from buying or leasing or whatever?
Well, I think we can.
Yeah.
I assume that would not be a problem.
Yeah.
But there's a legal way to do that.
That's one of the big questions, another one of the big questions.
Zone that it's not short-term rentals.
Yeah, again, that's
That's a big
probably
issue.
one of the things that, when we set this up, it's going to have to be some kind of the deed restriction.
Actually, where Jay's property is commercial,
Oh.
so it would qualify for a short-term rental. It's
Excuse me.
commercial, there's 500 feet
Okay, hold
on
on.
either side.
No, it's not.
I can't visualize where the property is. I know where your parents' house is.
No,
That's
that's
two different
where the,
Yeah.
You know
this
where-
other property is David Baker's house. You go up maybe about a mile past the Shenandoah. On the left-hand side, you go around this curve, and there's a field down in there. It's the field, you can
Okay.
see.
Do you know where
the
Reserve
stairs.
Hill Road
Yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah.
Across from there.
I know where it is.
Nice, very nice.
I like it slips.
So I know you're,
Landlord could actually paint the house, you know.
It's the worst.
so Jay, I know you're very flexible and
Yeah.
very, happily, thankfully so, but we have to sort of start somewhere. And so, in terms of what you would like best, it sounds like properties for sale versus rent or a mix.
Either, it doesn't matter. I just don't want to be a landlord, for the rest of my life, so.
You don't have to take landlording as seriously. That's another.
I mean,
It's hard not to.
I get retired.
we do want to bring families into town,
Yeah.
but the
Exactly.
story that you just told
Yeah,
really involved individuals, young individuals coming into town
Yeah.
initially,
yeah,
and then becoming a family.
yeah.
And so, there may be a place for some rental properties to allow that.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no question about that.
In fact, some of the target people may already work in the town.
Yeah.
Some of the targeted people we'd like to have may already work in the
I
town.
know 4 people who would move right in.
Yeah, that's true.
When our first meeting we had the general manager from Wentworth, Henry, and Mark LaHood, who owns the other properties, and who's the other? Oh, I had Eagle Mountain House.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were all here, and they were singing blues about their employees live in Berlin and
Right.
Gorham and
Yep,
parts unknown. And boy, what a great opportunity for one of them.
I work for the AMC and we have tons of seasonal staff, and there are so many people that would love to stay here and like be part of the community and join the fire department and everything else, but because there is no housing, almost no housing, they end up going elsewhere, and I feel like that for a long time that felt like the pipeline for how people came to live in this town. That's why I'm here. That's how my sister ended up renting from Jay, and I think that the seasonals in all capacities that like love this area, that's who we would love to have living here, but there's nowhere for them to live, and I don't think that they should need to be married and ready to commit to having children. Like, as a single 43-year-old with no children, like what? I mean, I like the whole thing, but I think that this all seems great. When my parents tried to buy a house in Randolph in the 1980s, the entire town was against selling to them because they were a young couple and they're like, you're gonna have kids and then we're gonna have to pay taxes and then we're gonna have to like send
Oh
them
my
to school.
goodness.
So the fact that, so like you wanna look at whatever they were doing for zoning in the 70s and 80s and like do the reverse to attract people, I think that this is just like a remarkable switch in basically a generation of how you're addressing what the community is. And I think it's great.
Well, the other thing we can do is look at a lot of different towns that are going through this. And actually, when Scott looked into forming the Housing Commission, a lot of the process was looking at different towns in New Hampshire and who's doing what and how are they succeeding in doing that. And even with our short-term rental ordinance, we did that and looked at model towns and figured out how we wanted our short-term rental ordinance to look. So, you know, this is such a hot topic. You're going to find examples and probably legal cases of how to get around some of these things or what failed or what succeeded. So, you know, I look at a real estate attorney is going to be a huge, huge asset to have somebody. And if we can get that donated time, absolutely. I mean, I look at nonprofit boards. We have people that consult to those all the time. Why can't they do it here? Financial facilitators, architects, we have a couple of them already that have said they would love to help. So again, any kind of the donated services that can help move this along. And the other thing is we don't want this to sit and wait. We meet once a month, but we don't want this to wait for 4 more weeks before our next step. So anything we can, like we usually have to-do lists when we leave the meeting so we can keep the ball rolling.
Design-wise, Jay, do you have any concerns about what they look like, whether, you know, tiny homes okay, or?
To be honest with you, as long as they're
Modular construction.
aesthetically pleasing, because, and it's not me, it's getting community approval. That's the big thing.
Right.
So there's little things that you can do to bring in the community into this. So if you put up a bunch of, you know, crappy looking homes, no one's gonna be for that.
Yeah.
So and you can make, anyone that's done any remodeling the house, they know that there's a cheap way to do it, and there's
Right.
like a ridiculous way to do it, there's something in between, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions to Jay about
Just
how we
thank
move
you.
forward?
Yeah,
It's really
thanks for being here, Jay.
exciting.
Yeah. So I think,
And the other thing is that, you know, the other part that I wanted to put out that I thought about quite a bit was that I kind of wanted to look at this as a model, because if you do it right for
Yeah.
like, you know, say, even 4, 5 homes, whatever, you do it right and it's a success, then you can take that model and plunk it into another 5-acre lot someplace else in town, and another one, 5 acre, and people will be more for that, you know? And I've done a lot of research on, you know, I like to bring up deed restriction.
Yeah.
Because I can just do anything I want to put on that deed restriction, and it could be that.
oh, look what my dad did.
Yeah. The reason why he's saying that is I bought the land that's around my house,
Right.
and his father put all these deed restrictions
Yeah,
on it.
I got them on some of my property too. It's amazing. Yes.
So, but the idea was to create, you know, a model and make it successful so that other people would be inclined to do other things with their land when they don't want it anymore, you know, so.
And I
So
think
that's-
if you have a partner like Bank of New Hampshire who has the background that would have the advertising dollars to spend, and that's your initiative, they're going to cheer this on the whole way. You know, when you get the people behind it to endorse and sponsor this,
Yeah.
it's going to be huge.
Do you have any problem with a sort of an actual developer?
Someone that
Taking
builds
this on.
mass.
Say that again?
Not the town, you know, doing all this work, but an outside developer taking this on?
No, not at all.
Because
Oh, no.
what I'm thinking of, and I think we've discussed this, it's a couple out of southern New Hampshire that's called Harmony something or other. They have an assisted living facility, and, no, wait a minute, it might be what do you call it, memory
Memory care
care,
facility, yeah.
something like that. So initially, they put up a development for their own staff, because they were having trouble attracting staff without housing in the area, keeping staff, because they couldn't find housing. And it worked well, so they then started a second development that's not for their staff, it's just for the local community. And what makes it work for them is that they come with a lot of these services. The wife is an architect, and the husband is a contractor,
Oh, wow.
on top of these other things that they're doing. And so they kind of bring those services into it, and it's just part of what they offer. It's not, they're not billing or investing separately as contractors and architects. And so they've been able to do what most people think can't be done in terms of construction and pricing and size. It is southern New Hampshire, so they have septic and
Yeah, so
town water. So
that's usually the economy of scale.
Yeah.
that does make a big difference. When you had, it was HEB, right, that looked at it?
Yeah.
Did you talk to them about septic at all? With
Yeah,
the community septic? or-
I have a drawing, it was a feasibility study. I had a feasibility study done, I paid for that. But
Could there be like one septic, like
community,
where Lisa
yeah.
Pallister lives? There's
Yeah,
four
where else is
houses.
Yep.
And then she
Merrill
has
Lake, where I
septic
live, there's 15 homes, and there are, I think, 5 septics
I believe so, yeah.
out of 15 homes, so the answer is yes.
Yeah, so the idea that I had, not to get crazy about this, but really what the whole feasibility study was the following, is that there was a piece of land right past the Baker property that was for sale. So the house, if you go up, if you know the property I'm talking about, right, you get the main house, and then you get the art studio. Right beyond the art studio, they cut in that driveway that goes down to this house. Well, there's another lot of land there that was, I don't know, 4 acres, let's say, 5 acres. And it abutted all my other lots. So the feasibility study was, would it be advantageous for me to buy that land, even though there's only like one buildable little tiny place for a house on that land, to combine all the lots to increase the number of units over all the land
Okay, yeah.
versus just have what I have now. And the answer to that was it wasn't worth the extra $300,000 I'd have to pay for that lot.
Yeah.
So that was the answer. okay?
Gotcha.
And that lot was what, 4 acres, you said?
I don't know what the other one was. Mine is like 6 acres plus the 2 acres of the houses are on. And you already have 2 living units on that
Yeah.
2 acres, right? So if you could put 5 on there, and I included this other acreage, would it mean that I could get 8 or 9? No, the answer's no.
That's good. Thank you.
So-
That's good to know though up front.
And are you
Would be good
renting
for a
those units
playground?
now?
Excuse me?
Are you renting those units now?
Yeah, so it's always the main house is the people that work for AMC, anything,
Yeah.
They're the single people, and then whatever the next couple comes up, ends up with the art studio. So, which it's not, it looks like a little shed, but that's like 1,500 square feet of 4 levels.
I actually just met that tenant skiing this
Catherine?
afternoon.
Or-
Yeah, Catherine.
Catherine.
Oh, yeah, in the art studio, it's
Oh,
awesome. And
okay,
it's like,
cool.
oh. I didn't realize the 2 floors and, yeah.
Full.
Zoe and Dodge live there, right?
What?
Zoe and Dodge live there?
They're in the main.
They're in the main house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake. Oh, it's just something.
Okay, sorry.
I got maps open right now.
Oh, okay.
This is it right here?
Uh,
Am I right?
No, this is the field right there.
It's right across the road.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the main house and that's the
Right.
house.
There's lots.
Typically, you want to see that or?
There's still lots.
Yeah.
I got it up
But-
here.
Number one step, yeah.
Thanks, Jay.
Then you can, you know, and
Where's the issue like
they-
across?
I know.
Where's Missouri?
Water painting from
Missouri
it.
feels right.
I have
Well,
no
Jay-
clue.
All right.
Jay said, you said you were gonna put a painting in each one of the homes and name the home.
Yeah,
after
sure.
it.
That's where you're-
I think that's the only request I have is it's named after Dave Baker.
Yeah. Thanks.
I love that.
Well,
That's
on-
right.
Once the town agrees to put in the road free of charge, since they're gonna be our partners, we'll name the road Phelan Avenue.
Feed and Baker property.
No.
Baker, just Baker.
I don't need it.
No.
All right, so
All right, sorry.
I think we'll start assembling the forces in terms
Yeah.
of a lot of the site work kind of stuff. I'm also going to talk to. I keep trying to get in touch with Sean Bergeron
Yeah.
because he's what's the development in North Conway? It's the
Continuum or
the Pine Ridge, or is it?
I-
Anyhow, it's a bunch of,
Yeah.
it's assisted living, it's a bunch of small units. I'd love to pick his.
Ridgeline.
Ridgeline, yeah.
Right, right.
I'd like to pick his brain as to, what the cost is, how they're doing that construction. And then I'll talk to Harmony, even if they're not interested, I bet they could give us some advice as to how to make these things kind of work, and we'll just kind of try to get this moving forward.
You wanna do this transaction in the calendar year, 25? Is this the year you wanted to do it, or you don't care?
It doesn't care. It's a tax
We do.
load off the.
I get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I think we need to, I mean, if you talk to Harmony and at least even get an idea of what services they provide or what we would need, a list of, which professional services, et cetera, that's a good start.
And this may be a crazy idea, but, and I agree, it's more than, I think, Habitat for Humanity already is a couple years backlog. But, if we had a contractor that was willing to, either donate time or, give us time in the bargain, and it's some sort of modular type construction, could there be sort of a community version of Habitat for Humanity that pitches in to put the stuff together?
Barn raising,
As a way of, at least decreasing the cost
Yeah.
to some degree.
Yeah.
So Hancock also has, they do modular construction, so I was gonna talk to them. And they just started partnering with a group out of Maine called Tiny Homes of Maine, I think it is. And I'll talk to them too, just to, how low can we go when it comes to actually building something, but like you said, making it aesthetic, making it quality. I think Ann Peterson's units are probably sort of the best model for that.
Oh, is it Bruce Landing? Those are lovely.
And well-made.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Curtis Milton, who's the contractor that worked with Ann on those, he's also someone I've been talking to, and I think he'd be a good resource.
Awesome.
Right?
Great.
Any other questions for Jay, or?
It's exciting.
Very.
Well, you
Yeah.
mentioned a real estate lawyer, and do we know, I mean, I'm thinking of Bob Cantak.
Yep, and Bob's been involved in housing, back in the Community Home Committee. I think Bob would be a great person to contact.
You know who else is a real estate lawyer? Our new member of the zoning board of appeals, Steve
Yes.
McGlynn.
Yeah.
My
That would be a
next door-
great
My next
resource.
door neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, he's got quite a resume. So, I just think we have so much talent in our own town that we have two architects. I mean, look at the architects the Historical Society has worked with too. And we have another gentleman that worked with the beginning of the fire department, fire station study that is willing to help out too. So I think once we put some word out and ask for the services that we need, we're going to find some real lending hands.
Great. All right, next. Talk about
Fantastic.
So, I don't know if you read into the minutes or the agenda, we're planning an outreach event, probably, was it June we were talking about? June at the Whitney Center. Part of that, the pamphlet that Barbara held up a little bit ago, is for more than just that event, but, you know, that sort of that event that prompted the development of the pamphlet. So I think that's what we'll discuss next, is the pamphlet itself.
Yeah, I love it. I think it looks really nice.
I'm
And
glad.
when you looked at the, I like the picture of the school on the inside. That turned out really nice.
Thanks,
It just, because it fits on both sides of it, so when you open it up, it's not trying to fit it on 1/3 of it, you know?
Yeah.
And being that it's an important part of our focus, I think that.
And it's a nice
that's
winter shot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
felt like a crazy
Yeah.
person this week,
And
just walking around the
Jackson.
school taking photos.
Yeah,
Jackson's been a lot of different
Doing
types of towns, but,
Yeah.
you know, Ski Town really is.
So when you say an outreach event, is it like to invite members of the community
Yeah.
to explain to them what's,
Yep.
to hopefully find some of the services that we're gonna need to help, to make people aware of what we're doing. You know, 6 degrees of separation, it's more like 3 in the town, so when you start talking about this and explaining how far we've gotten in just 1 year or 2, I think that's real focus. The other thing we want to do with the trifold is give it to all of the inns and any of the businesses in town here to say, this is the Housing Commission. When you walk in there, get involved. If it's not the Housing Commission, what is it? Come to our event, learn what we're doing, and do you know somebody who would need housing? We're gonna have a list of people for that. But just making people aware of what we're trying to do. That's really what the event is going to focus on.
And a large part of that is that, you know, when you talk about housing, everybody immediately jumps to affordable housing, quote unquote, and workforce housing really is what they're thinking when they say affordable housing. And it's not that we don't have a workforce housing problem here in the area, but again, you know, Jackson also has a community housing problem. We just are not bringing, we're losing part of our community, and so changing that discourse, you know, having people understand that that's what we're really about. We're not looking to bring a lot of transient workforce, quote unquote, although any housing we provide is going to help workforce housing too. I mean, the Venn diagram overlap is huge between the two. Really, our focus is the community. What serves the Jackson community, and in particular, it's really bringing younger people in. And I think that makes a big difference to a lot of people, especially in Jackson, you know, as to supporting what we do. The library had an event where all the volunteer organizations in town had a little table, and people came by just to, you know, find out what we do and that sort of thing. And you know, it really each time took.
Every person.
It took a good 2 minutes to change the conversation from workforce to community support.
Yeah.
Family. And so a lot of the outreach event is really to try to make that point. That's what we're about. That's our mission here in Jackson, is to bring more families to town.
I mentioned too, since it's going to be at the Whitney, this is their, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is their quarterly catalog that they come out with other programs. So if we can get it into this for the second quarter, I know Bridget's working on it right now, so I'll give that to whoever wants it. But this is where they have all their contact information, how to register and sign up, which we don't need registration and sign up really if it's just an attending event, but like it says free, no limit. But this would be good for Bridget and Greg Marcello put this together each quarter. And it usually, like, this is out for January, it's been out for a little bit, so I know they're working on the April through June, so the sooner we can get a date down, probably the better. And we had talked about sometime in May, end of May, beginning of June, but I don't remember the exact date, but I think we talked about a Saturday, right?
Right.
So, you know, those can go quickly.
Well, I can contact them,
Maybe just to see what's open
see what's
first.
open, and then go from there.
Yeah, that would be great. Do you want this?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on the pamphlet?
I have quantity.
I think,
2,500.
Yeah, I think the highest, because
Yeah.
we take them to the event, we take them to the inns, we put them in any rack part areas that we have at the libraries,
yeah, think we
chamber.
mentioned 1,500 last week, but I'm down for,
With with the pricing, it just
yeah, seems to go up.
doesn't make as much sense to go there.
Yeah, it seemed like they had Jackson, the account available, so we can just print it
Yep,
out.
perfect.
Good.
Great job.
Thanks, yeah, I'll
Who
have
did
those.
that?
It's really nice.
It's a combination effort of myself
Pass
and
that
Dean.
around, so
Yeah.
not forwarded yet, but-
Give this to
Yeah, I reached out to Jess, but have not heard back, so for now,
Okay.
Ashley gets the attributions report.
Great.
Yeah.
I was
I don't
saying,
have a two-sided printer.
this is our quote too. If we don't create housing, we risk losing what makes Jackson so special. Families at Jackson Grammar School, neighbors who care, and the community that holds us together. Ashley Fife, Jackson resident. I think that's what really encompasses
Oh, that's
what we're trying to
I
do.
know, I've saved it.
So,
Or you just put her name.
It's showing.
No.
okay, so you'll work on a date. I really appreciate all of you guys that are being here tonight that want to join the Housing Commission too. And right now we have 3 full-time members and I'm the chair liaison, or the select board liaison. So after town meeting, hopefully we'll be able to have 5 full-time members and 5 alternates. So whoever was, I'm glad you're all here to hear what we do, and then we'll keep your letters of interest, and as soon as we get the authority to have 5 members, then we'll reach out and talk to everyone.
Would we not start adding, since we have slots open now?
Yeah, we can for alternates for now and then
Right.
advance them, sure. So,
And so it's just, if you don't know, it's the select board
No,
that
the
appoints
select board
people
appoints.
to the housing commission.
yep,
And so it's really, Barbara's the chair of the select board, so any further communication.
yeah, we'll reach out, and then we have a meeting on the 25th, so it probably won't be at that meeting. And why not? Maybe it will.
Yeah. I'll touch it.
Do you have a question?
That's my to-do.
The house that's here on this,
Yeah,
I don't think you better put that on there.
good to know.
I just was
Which house
thinking
is
that.
It's right
I
there.
mean, I was like, that's the
Yeah.
one that's behind all of the like, no trespassing, don't even look at this house, like, it's so pretty, you can see it through the trees.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, no, no.
Good to know, cool, thank you for that feedback.
It's at the base of
hiking
black.
trail of
Yeah.
of black, like when you go to the parking lot, and then you're on the trail, like the part where it's like you are on private land.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
keep your eyes on the trail. And you see what else, like, it's a beautiful house.
Yeah. Maybe I'd get a picture of spruce.
Just put a picture of your
Do you
house
want-
on it.
I was gonna
Well,
say,
I look for one, but I'll
I
get a
thought we
picture of
were
your
gonna
house.
do, yeah, I thought we were gonna do your house.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
The owner will
This
give you
photo
permission
looked
to do
pretty.
that.
Okay,
And it's the same color scheme, too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Emily, that's perfect. That's true.
No, I mean, whatever, I'm just like,
Yeah, that's
or maybe one of Jay's
That's a good
houses.
catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good to know, yeah.
Because I could talk to her a lot about renting that little place, and it's like, absolutely not, there's no
Really?
way.
Is it a short-term rental?
No, it's nothing.
No.
It's
But
nothing.
it definitely, yeah.
And why not?
Yeah,
Just the
not?
hassle, or?
A lot of
Renters
things.
are riffraff. We all-
Yeah.
Bunch of hooligans.
I mean, why not put the house on the thing?
No, why not?
Oh.
It's a complicated situation right now, so.
Okay. Aren't they all, actually?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do anything else regarding the event, or?
No, but when we get these done, that'll be good.
Yeah.
If we can have some of these for town meeting too, that might be good, if
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
in 3
the 13th.
Yeah.
If they're done, fine,
I
if
think,
not.
yeah, I think we'll be able to print them
Yeah,
soon.
that would be great.
Was there any action items I'd like to note the action items that we're working on for the end of the week? I think
I'll be
I've got
reaching out to
13.
the interested parties for being on the board, and we'll at least be able to appoint alternate members until the 5 members are approved, and then we can always escalate from there and appoint more once we get the
I think we
go-ahead.
have 4 alternates, right?
Right,
open
and we're
right
gonna open to 5 and 5, right?
now.
Perfect.
I have one question. Do you have enough information now to go to your
I think so.
commercial lenders?
Yay!
Yay!
But let us know if you have any questions, or.
We're not gonna hold you to that, right?
You feel
1
good
to
about
10,
that, right?
I just think it's important. know?
Yeah.
And I don't live in Jackson, but, you know,
You have to live somewhere.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Fantastic.
you could.
And so beyond
Right.
that,
School houses.
I think, how do we want to approach, we've already talked with Chris, the architect.
Oh, Chris Docker?
Chris, yeah,
Yeah. I think I'm gonna see him this weekend.
okay.
If you end up having any pushback or anything, he sounds like he's really open, but let me know and I can contact another person as well, or we can have more than one person, but I'll wait.
Yeah, I'll talk to him
for
one
sure.
way or another, I'll talk to him before the end of the week.
And the attorney that's your neighbor
Yep.
now on the ZBA.
Yep. I'll talk to him.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Ken.
And I will talk to the Whitney Center
Great.
and then also start
I,
looking into the construction.
You know, with all due respect to Caitlin and her bank, I still have pending meetings with the other two banks. One got canceled the morning of because of COVID, and the other one, the guy got in a car accident, so.
Oh, wow.
But I might be bad luck, I don't know. But
Anyone else?
I'll continue to carry through with that nonetheless.
But that's good to know because then Caitlin can take that back to her bricks and mortar and say, they have other people.
You know the difference, there's a difference. Retail lenders, and Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, but they look at things completely differently, okay? You can sit there and say, well, we've got a piece of land, we have an acre of land to put a house on. Isn't that enough collateral? And they'll scratch their heads like, I don't know. It is enough collateral, there's plenty. And the housing market is just dicey. Loaning money today is like, yeah, I don't want to be borrowing any money.
Tell them it's in Jackson. It's a different story.
Well, it's true. It's just, I would not want to be at that age now where I have to go in like a little weasel in the bank and beg for a mortgage and everything else. I
Nor
can't
would I.
stand it.
Yeah.
No, you. And I'm good at this
Nor would I.
stuff, believe me.
Jay, would it be possible to get a copy of the feasibility study that you have?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Do you have any opposition to us filming this meeting and putting it on Jackson Flicks? Because we can do it or not do it. I have no problem if you are,
I don't care.
okay. Just wanted to get your permission on that, so.
And Jay, do you mind your name mentioned in the notes as well?
I'd rather not my name in the notes.
Okay,
You
cool.
can say
Yeah.
Jackson resident.
Yeah,
With
sure.
all due respect,
I was gonna
with all due respect to present company, the town of Jackson probably already all knows exactly about this already.
That's okay, so whatever you do.
No, I'll anonymize it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Sweet. Thanks, y'all.
Next meeting is when? Before I forget,
Did
because
we set a date?
I think it's,
Third Tuesday of next month,
Yeah.
right?
it
Well, once in a
is,
while, we have to change.
That doesn't
Yeah.
conflict, but what's the town meeting date?
town meeting is the 13th and the 11th is the
So
2nd.
this
So
is the
are we doing
18th.
it the 18th?
Yeah.
Is the
18th
third
of March.
It's
Tuesday?
already on my
18th.
calendar.
Yeah, so the 18th, yes.
Oh my God.
Did you guys get to see that?
Okay, motion
Yeah, that's
adjourned?
great. Actually,
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Oh, it has to be signed. That's right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Really
everyone.
appreciate your interest.
Right.
This is the first crowd we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
That's
awesome.
okay.
And now you're back.
I sat right in that chair right there, and I said, as soon as we let people know, the brochure or something like that, they're gonna show.
Wait, so what inspired so many people to show up? Is there something special in E-News that?
It went into E-News, and announced we're looking for members of the housing.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, that's all it took. I know we discussed this all via email.
Yeah,
Should've been paying attention.
not really actually.
It's amazing.
Live right.
Long time. Yeah.
Oh,
that was
Stop for my kids, looking at the beautiful views right now.
Yeah. Nice.
How long have you been here?
Was like feeling.
Yeah, you
Less than 2 years.
Where'd you come from?
I went by you here.
You said you lived here for 40 years. Did you make a family here?
No, that's really. You're being fit out.
So I actually worked with part-time.
And what do you Yeah, definitely, and I'll talk to you next week. Get this on the next agenda, that would be great. And then what is your significant other do? Yeah.
Along that path, but, we both were kind of on this one, she's been able to continue.
Yeah, if there's anything that comes up, this is, an all hands on deck. So we really appreciate that. Thanks for being here. And it's great to have no kids in the block. You see it's on the block.
Most of them going snowshoeing.
Thank you. It's good to meet you.
Oh, it's been a bar. Yeah.
Yes, nice to see you.
Yeah, so, I know, right? If I don't see you,
Oh, it is. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm thinking of some other, like what we saw.
Yeah, well, I was scrolling through my photos, I was like, I have so many of our houses, it's like, when the northern lights are out, so it's like totally washed out. Or it's like when it's mid-paint, because it's like taking pictures of the later in the painting. So I have some like really weird photos of the house.
The tiramisu.
Yeah, the tiramisu. Do you have any photos of your house, like from, I posted some, like any head-on photos of like, I know Jason in the porch, with like green leaves.
Can we, of our house?
Yeah.
Totally.
That'd be great. I feel like that or spruce would be really good, but especially this, absolutely, even if they can set up this, like,
Bethany has,
but this has,
it's perfect, and when she was with caring for her parents and then would you ever rent?
so she live in it now, like her baby knows
Because it's super, I don't know how long, much longer she's going to be there, sister. But very deep passion.
Bye-bye, Emily, it's nice to see you.
So, yeah, good to see you. See you on the road.
Did you get
I was very about what I call Alex and Emily's house.
But I'm fine now.
You were doing some work on that.
And
Because I got two different. I totally get it. We gotta do work on their house.
Drive me crazy. Anyway, we'll see you, thanks.
They don't pay. They pay rent, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is. And I have one resident that pays the bills, so I bring it. So that's my office. I don't make a dime. They short-term rental. I need your housing.
I know what you're saying.
So that's my wife. How's your I have someone else run that.
Oh, I was wondering.
So I had this house, they were terrible. So finally I said, this is ridiculous because really I'm doing it wrong. So what I did was I found, now with law.
You know what I said, if I were, I swear, if I were 67 instead of 77, going on
So I make it so that
I would fund the project myself.
6 months and then or something. They only pay 6
I
months.
mean, it's no
Oh,
problem.
okay.
$1.5 million.
So that's, That's what I'm doing this winter.
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
I know.
I'll
Bye,
see.
take care, thank you.
It's a young woman, her fiance, that rented it because she was moving to the area. And she was.
Are they working at the hospital?
No.
Maybe that's a couple.
She's a photographer, because I saw her picture, I was watching,
Great.
what's the show
I feel like I have no skills to offer.
New Hampshire Chronicle?
We're in New Hampshire Chronicle. They're watching New Hampshire Chronicle, and I'm watching this like beautiful scene picture of it, had her name.
You've been here
It's
long enough, you know so many people. Yes, you
Her name
I
on
said,
it.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm very reclusive.
I sent her a message saying, hey, I just saw the pictures, it's really nice. And she goes, really? I go, yeah, they're giving you credit. She goes, I had no clue.
Wow.
But anyways,
Yeah.
but they live now in the Cape, and she anticipated being and work remotely there.
Oh,
And
right.
I think it's been like, I come up like 2 weekends a month, and my business, my company wants me to still, as she works for, fly down to North Carolina.
Oh,
So I don't think that's.
I figured out a way on property.
But we'll rent for 6 months while finding longer-term housing, like, I've done that, so we place that, like,
Yeah.
live somewhere short-term, try to find a long-term place.
So that's what I went to the, I'm only on Facebook for 2 things, 3 things now. 'cause
Yeah.
I'm Disney nuts, so I have
Yeah.
to follow some Disney stuff. So,
Well, you
that,
did it.
and the New Hampshire rental is like a Conway rental.
Yeah.
So I have to.
People tell us we want to.
Oh, there's a Conway,
Everything was dropped in.
Oh my gosh.
How old is that?
What, in 1980?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's at
just
that
before
time.
mine.
And it's
Okay.
right at that time, it's like the 20-year mark.
That's why there's not gonna
40
be-
year
All
mark.
right,
that's where I am.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
20-year mark we did.
I'm at 40 years.
Because that was it, yeah, like,
Right.
Typos, when they're doing this, they don't bother.
Out of our 100
Groups, it is.
towns
Yeah.
in town,
I might have.
if we can get that
Yeah,
passion
come on,
across
come
to 3 to 5 of those to
You can
convert
tell
a short-term rental into a long-term rental.
They won't,
So-
they can't make as much money.
But if they own multiple and they
And
can.
it's-
Huh,
create-
but, yeah, so there's a
But I
group.
I'm saying, if we,
What's
and
my
that's a
head now
stretch, and that's why I don't
is
want to say it, but you know, I just think, do something for the community, especially if
I
people
don't know.
live here, but
I don't know.
it's so,
I mean,
it's
Alex
such a
and
big
them did
difference
it.
on
They
money.
did it to make money.
I mean, it's not good.
No, I would put it up.
It's the same way.
Oh, wait,
So, I'm probably gonna sell the house down in Intervale,
It's
Now, some of
but
them,
I need the garage for
our
storage.
second homeowner.
some of them.
So that's why I bought
And
my
most people are
antique
really
car in
nice.
the garage.
Oh, yeah.
So
And she's 80.
my wife wants me
Shovel and
to
stuff.
build a
But several
barn.
of them are just owned by.
How's my
commercial
crap?
companies.
So I can get rid of the house in Intervale.
Tish said this.
There you
And
go.
then I'm
Said
like,
the
okay,
same thing
well,
about
if I
hers.
do that, then I'll sell it to some.
But they rent them.
I would
Like,
wish
Sharon lives up in Dundee.
Sold at market or, you know.
Yeah,
or-
Down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Only
I
something.
actually
Yeah.
checked them out for.
Because that's the
It's a
other
weird
thing, yeah.
house. It's a weird
Like
house.
$500,
It's
$7 a week. It's really.
it's the house that's.
Why, they don't care. I'm ready to move out of my house
It's-
the weekend.
Is it across from like the brown light on 13A?
You know, for like this week.
So it's
Right,
16,
right.
no, it's a brown, it's,
Yeah.
The brown one, like, on Railroad, there.
I don't know, right?
It's like,
It's
like,
very-
like little brown, like a huge tree.
Right on the road.
Yeah.
So it's real, it's right by Dundee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you came down to Dundee,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, the churchy place.
The churchy place.
Yeah.
Then there's like a
Yeah.
green, like,
Green.
Yeah,
tree, and then there's a
You can
weird
send
barn.
them
Yeah, that was very
Oh,
exciting.
Yeah, it's right out
Okay.
There's a big
That was a
receptacle.
measure of 40,000.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
So, it's a garage. And the house,
Was it
really,
really-
what used to be,
Something
the
not-
barn, the old house, right?
Oh, that's so
Yeah. This week because it's taking sure that there's no kids or
Then they put an addition on it.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Till 10
It's a weird house.
Next
No,
time.
So we're on that, we're not sorry. Don't think, don't think for LDI, we're really wrong.
Yeah. properties that
Pulls up
move
next to me.
money.
Yes.
Good morning coffee.
All right, thanks,
So
guys.
she wants me to build a barn in our house, so I don't have to be worrying about another rental. And then figure out
Well, my
the Dave Baker price. So my idea of the Dave Baker
I
price,
think I want to shelf it.
you know, I kind of want to talk about